The Fairfax County Police Department years, 1978 to 2002, Part 1. I changed gears from public broadcasting to public safety in 1978 after spending 18 months as a reserve officer with the Metropolitan Police Department. D.C. was under a hiring freeze at the time, so while I would have preferred to serve the community where I lived, I accepted the position with Fairfax County and their police department. I had applied to several other area departments, Arlington, Prince George's, Metro Transit, U.S. Park Police. However, Fairfax was the first to contact me. I remember that I received a call from an applicant investigator, Dick Cochini, later to learn he was the brother-in-law of my to-be First Sergeant George Everett on December 3, 1977, and I was sworn in on January 16, 1978. 6 weeks was a relatively unprecedented short amount of time. Of course, not having lived anywhere except in this area, a background check was easy to conduct. Later, as I was retiring from Fairfax, they were lucky if they could hire a new officer in less than 6 months. The decision to change careers was one that, had I spent more time thinking about it, may not have been so easy a one to make. As it turned out, I was very pleased with my career choice. I had been most fortunate that my positions at American University's WAMU-FM came to me easily at the end of my academic work, but the prospects of a career in broadcasting, either at WAMU-FM or National Public Radio, did not really intrigue me. I'd been offered the position at NPR as Vice President for Station Relations, but couldn't imagine spending months on end traveling around the country, listening to station staff complaining about NPR, just as I had spent years doing. In addition, the volunteer time with the MPDC as a reserve officer had whetted my appetite for helping people and serving the community, with a little excitement thrown in for an extra added attraction. Often when I've been asked to speak to groups about law enforcement technology, or community policing, I've provided some background saying that I volunteered as a reserve officer after a stint for a month as a Superior Court juror, more about this later, and on one notable weekend that I was single-handedly responsible for preventing a sexual assault of a 16-year-old young woman and detecting and arresting the youthful burglars of the Key Bridge newsstand, and the recovery of more than $1,500 worth of rare collector edition comic books, and that after a career change to full-time policing in Fairfax County, nothing nearly as exciting or thrilling ever happened to me again. Oh well. The 24 years I spent with Fairfax County saw the county grow from a population of about 500,000 to over 1 million. Malls, shopping centers, high-rise buildings, federal government complexes, schools, colleges, parks, and all the accompanying problems surrounding each kept all of us relatively busy. The routine false burglar alarms, vandalism, drunk drivers, and automobile accidents seemed to occupy most of our time, but there was the occasional sexual assault, bank robbery, burglary in progress, felonious assault, or murder. Daily routine patrol assignments were often broken up by special assignments such as stakeouts of frequently burglarized businesses, never caught anybody in the act though, special traffic enforcement assignments, an occasional pre-planned narcotics bust or takedown, or dignitary protection or escort. I vividly recall that my first day on my own, away from my training officer, a Saturday of day work, I was assigned to traffic control at Joan Kennedy's estate on Chain Bridge Road for a fundraiser or some affair. The excitement of the day consisted of an elephant getting away from its handler and charging presidential daughter Amy Carter. Since her father's background was in peanut farming, we all said that the elephant must have mistaken her for a peanut. The Secret Service intervened and rescued Amy. Pat Maloon Brown, also known as Katie Daly, used to insist that I regale her father with stories and police exploits when he and B were in town for a visit. I always had trouble recalling anything chilling, interesting, or significant, and then some story or exploit would come back to me at Pat's prompting. You know, the time that such and such. You see, and it had been too bad that more police couples, families, don't realize this and use it to reduce the stress in their marriages and relationships. I found that when Pat and I would sit down for a few minutes, and we were both subject to working shift work, either over breakfast, dinner, drinks, passing each other on the way to and fro, and telling stories of the day's trials and tribulations, that the process of sharing this must have moved this information to a less volatile area of the brain in longer-term storage and thereby reduce the stress associated with work. I suppose many public safety people do this, but all too often while drinking after hours in bars. I knew of many public safety families where one spouse wouldn't want to know anything about the public safety worker's day at work, probably didn't even approve or support their career choice. In almost every one of those instances, the marriages were always troubled.